Sentiment, Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing. We practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra
Please join me in chanting of the Three Refuges. Shi Shim Wim Yon Ne Shi Wan Sam Se Che Ma Cha E Sa Chu Il Che Hu Tai Shi Shim Wim Yon Ne Shi Wan Sam Se Che Ma Cha E Sa Chu Il Che Sa Maya Shi Shim Wim Yon Ne Shi Wan Sam Se Che Ma Cha E Sa Chu Il Che Sa And now in English, please repeat after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha,
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into awakened lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into awakened lands unimpeded.
And now I invite you to join me in walking meditation around the garden. So as we do this practice, we'll put on our shoes if we have put them aside, and we will walk single file. So I will be walking down the center aisle, and then each side will follow me one at a time. Be mindfully present with this walking. It's a lovely type of meditation practice that helps us connect with our body, our mind, and with each other. Please be seated. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhamman Saranam Gacchami. Sangam Saranam Gacchami. Dear brothers and sisters, Dharma friends, I just chanted the Three Refuges in Sanskrit and in Pali, the language of the Buddha. And that is the topic of our Dharma talk today. So first, let's do a microphone check. Can everybody hear me in the back? Excellent. All right. We have 5 temples located in Mexico City, Toronto, Chicago, Ann Arbor, and New York. And we also have a farm at Spring Wind. And so, as part of our larger society, we like to identify a theme for our practice for the year. And so, the theme that we have chosen for this coming year is the 3 jewels, taking refuge in the 3 jewels, and also threefold training, which is working with morality, meditation practice, and wisdom practices. So I'd like to introduce this topic today by talking about the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. In the Buddhist scriptures, there's a lot of references to jewels, sort of this beautiful, lovely image. In one story, there's a wealthy practitioner who very secretly sews a precious jewel into the robe of his friend, who is somewhat destitute. And the friend later discovers this secret jewel, the jewel being like our Buddha nature hidden away from us. In other scriptures, for example, the Avantamsaka Sutra, which is known as the Flower Ornament Sutra, there's all these beautiful images of jeweled lands and jeweled thrones and everything sparkling and clean. And then a third sort of image that I love is Indra's net, which is sort of the net of the Sangha. You can think of it this way. And each one of us is a jewel at the node of that net, reflecting all the other jewels. So what property do jewels have? They're hard, pretty indestructible. And you can do things like throw mud at them, and then all you have to do is clean them off, and you can see that they are a jewel underneath. So in Buddhist tradition, we take refuge in the 3 jewels, these 3 precious aspects of our practice, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And over the coming weeks, we'll be talking about each of these. The jewels have different colors associated with them. So the Buddha jewel is yellow, the Dharma jewel is blue, and the Sangha jewel is red. So today I'm wearing the yellow flower, which means I'm going to talk about the Buddha jewel. And I hope that I'll invite you to join in at the end with some questions so you can do your own reflection. So when we take refuge in the three jewels, it's called Tisarana, taking refuge. And this practice started back in the Buddha's time. So when somebody wanted to become a follower of the Buddha, they came to the Buddha accepted them, and then they took the three refuges. Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, 3 times. They did that 3 times. And that initiated them into the community that expressed their commitment. And after that, they went through a period of cultivation in which they learned about, and this cultivation encompassed the Shila Samadhi Prajna I talked about earlier. So Shila being ethical practices, that's like cultivating the precepts. Some of you have taken precepts, moral guidelines for daily living, or some of you have worked with the 6 paramitas. So these things are the, the Shila practice of cultivating our jewels. And then the second practice is meditation practice and mindfulness practices. Meditation we did together in 2 different forms today, sitting and walking. And then the third cultivation is prajna practice. This encompasses a number of things, but for today, let's just say it means engaging with the scriptures or the teachings of the Buddha. So we have this originating in the time of the Buddha, this taking of refuge. And so when we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, we are also connecting with a long tradition. And that's sort of wonderful to remember our connection back to our spiritual ancestors. The word refuge implies a place of safety or protection. So as we do the practices, we create that place of safety within ourselves. So no matter what is going on in our lives, we can go back to that safe place and interact with the world around us in an awakened sort of way. When we take refuge, we're also opening ourselves to deepening of the practice. So when we were talking about this theme of taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, at first blush it seems, well, yeah, that's really basic. Maybe you can talk about that for 5 minutes and everybody will get it. But in actuality, this taking of refuge is a very deep practice. And we're just going to scratch the surface. And then it's up to you to continue your cultivation. Those of you who've been practicing for a while may notice that over time your practice has deepened in some way. When people take the precepts in our tradition, and we just had a precept class not long ago, when they conclude their study, they receive the guidance that we're giving you now a special Dharma name. And this name has 3 meanings. The outer name, the outer meaning, there's an inner meaning, and then there's a secret or innermost meaning. So an example of, let's say your Buddhist name is Kalyana Mitra. That's usually the example that we use. And it means spiritual friend. So that's the outer meaning. Kalyana Mitra, I'm a spiritual friend. And you think about that and you say, well, I can be a good friend to other people. And then you start to realize that this also involves being a friend to yourself. So that's sort of an inner meaning. And then the secret or innermost meaning might be that you're connected with all beings. And so this friendship becomes something sort of vast and all encompassing. So now let's return to the Buddha jewel. And I want to use this Buddha jewel as an example of how we can maybe travel from this outermost meaning to an innermost meaning that we can cultivate in our lives. Let's start with a simile. There's always many similes in Buddhist scriptures. And one of the ones that's associated with the three jewels has to do with the Buddha being the sun. You can see the color yellow, maybe that's where that comes from. The Dharma then is like the sun's rays that sort of penetrates everywhere. And then the Sangha might be all the life forms that are touched by the sun. So you look at our beautiful garden and you can say, that's the Sangha. Those of us sitting here are the Sangha. So that's a simile to begin with. And then going back to what's the outer meaning of the Buddha jewel? And for this, I want to start with the historical Buddha. So there's more than one Buddha, as some of you may know, but the most recent one is Shakyamuni Buddha or Gautama Buddha. And he was a real person, just like you and me. So I want to give you just a little flavor of his life and then see how this outer person, this outermost meaning, this historical Buddha can translate into something a little deeper for us. So in order to be efficient, I'm going to probably refer to my notes because studying the life of the Buddha can take, in our seminary program, it takes a semester, but in actuality, it can take your whole lifetime if you're a scholar. But the gist of the Buddha's life is this. So he was born around the 5th century before the Common Era. And he was born, he lived in northern India. This region is now known as Nepal. His family was of the warrior caste, which is a very high caste in India. And his father was some type of chief or ruler. And so the Buddha was born, Gautama, this is before he was the Buddha. Gautama was born into this very privileged family. When he was born, there was a prophecy. So they brought in all the sages. They say, what is it that is going to be the future of this precious son that has just been born? And the sage said, well, there's two possible paths, two possible outcomes to Gautama's life. Either he will become a very great world ruler, or he will become a great spiritual leader. And so his family, of course, wanted to steer him in the direction of being a very great ruler. And they thought one of the ways to do that was to protect him from the outside world, to surround him with wonderful things, so that he would not see things that made him engage in the kind of questioning that goes along with spiritual practice. So he lived in the palace for many years, and then one day asked his charioteer to take him outside the castle, outside the palace, so that he could see the world. And when he did that, he encountered three sights: an old person, a sick person, and a dead person. And he had never seen these sights before. And so this was the first time he realized that, gee, all people grow old. This is a type of suffering. People get sick and people die. And so from that trip, he walked away with this very deep question: what is this suffering and how can I end the suffering? This led to his leaving of the palace. He left the palace life and decided to become a wandering ascetic. There were many spiritual people wandering around India at the time, and he decided to join them. So he cut off his hair. He left his wife, because he had a wife and he had a newborn son, and he left them and went out seeking the answer to this great question of what is the nature of suffering and how can this suffering be ended. He encountered several important spiritual teachers, and he mastered their teachings quickly. And these teachers offered to have him come be part of their community and take over as a teacher, but he still felt like he hadn't quite got it. So he eventually decided that he would practice with some ascetics, which is a severe kind of practice, um, starving yourself, standing on one leg for long periods of time, these kinds of things, in an effort to let go of the body so you can get to a more enlightened place. But that didn't work so well either. So eventually he went off on his own to meditate by himself under a Bodhi tree. And as he did that meditation practice, he arrived at a state of awakening with some very deep insights. We celebrate this every year in our tradition. We have an enlightenment sitting in January, and we sit all night long so that we can maybe get a little of the experience of what it was like to do this deep seeking, and also just out of honor to the Buddha. And we always end up reading, we do some readings, and this is a special reading that I wanted to share with you about the enlightenment. Alone beneath the tree, the future Buddha only pressed on and on, deeper and deeper, without stopping anywhere, transcending all limitations, swallowing up the darkness with his own light, until with the dawn, his true mind rose clear and radiant and obvious as daybreak. When he glanced at the morning star, he found enlightenment itself crying out, "Wonder of wonders! Intrinsically, all living beings are Buddhas, endowed with wisdom and virtue." He was 35 years of age, and he had broken through to what others had only yet half dreamed. The path had been reopened. The Dharma was once again accessible to the efforts of humans and devas. In the steadily rising morning light, a supreme Buddha now sat beneath the suddenly blossoming tree. And so we think of this as the inspiration of the historical Buddha. And we can also think, I guess as we study this in the seminary, students are asked to write a paper. And so this is a very interesting process for students as they look at the life of the Buddha, and they find that it kind of relates to themselves in some way. So some of the things that trying to find, okay. So some of the things that the students write about are they were inspired, for example, by the Buddha leaving home, sort of being a rebel without a cause, going out in search of the spirituality. Well, we all can relate to that. We go through adolescence and we break away from home. Others have talked about um, the Buddha as being a father or a parent. And those of you with children know about that. So the Buddha had many disciples to take care of. And just yesterday, I was talking to one of our residents who said what inspired her was in one lifetime, gee, the Buddha went and he built this whole community and he broke all these norms, doing away with caste, um, showing people a whole radical new way of living. And man, isn't that badass? So that was her inspiration from the Buddha. And for me, as I look at life of the Buddha, something that inspires me is the skillful means. He seemed to be able to speak to every person in a way that they would understand. So he would always start with where they were at and then get them to talk about their life so that he could, suddenly have a conversation about how do you move to a next sort of level. As I was researching this topic, I ran across, see if I can find the name of the person. Yeah. So Ruben Habito, he's a Filipino Roshi, and he interestingly pointed to the Metta Sutta as an example of characteristics of the Buddha that might inspire us. And so I'll read just a few little snippets. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful. So if you met a person like this, you might be pretty inspired. And as you think about it, there are people in the world like this. Some of them are famous people. You might think of the Dalai Lama. You might think of Martin Luther King, Thich Nhat Hanh. Maybe you even think of members of your own family or mentors in your life who have inspired you in this way by exhibiting some of these characteristics, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful. And as we engage in this kind of reflection, now we are moving from the outer Buddha to realizing, hey, there maybe is an inner aspect of this Buddha. I can see the Buddha in other people. And maybe even there's a Buddha inside of me. And so this is in where our cultivation can begin. So one of the versions of the Three Refuges, we have many versions, says, I go for refuge to the Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, which must be cultivated to be known fully. And so now we get to this idea of cultivation, having discovered that there's maybe a Buddha seed within us. How is it that we can go about cultivating it? So, one thing I forgot to bring with me today, but I will ad lib. Um, an inspiring example that comes from Thich Nhat Hanh is eating a tangerine. And so, if you read Old Path, White Cloud, which is Story of the Buddha, he's talking to a group of children, and they're sharing some food. And one of them has brought a tangerine. And he said, eating this tangerine with fullness, full awareness, and mindfulness is a very special practice. So we look deeply at the tangerine, we smell it, we peel off, gently take off the skin. We notice the many sections of the tangerine. We taste its sweetness. And then as we look more deeply, we think about, where did this tangerine come from? It grew on a tree. The tree was nourished by soil, by sunlight, by humans tending it. And now we're becoming more fully connected. So if we can do mindfulness practices like this, it's a way of cultivating our inner Buddha. You can think of it that way. So you can think of some version of this in your life. For me, a very simple version, and I get a lot of teasing about this, is I love, love, love coffee. Mm-hmm. So in the morning, I always take my cup of coffee with two hands and appreciate every sip of it. When we were doing walking meditation a little while ago, we were cultivating the inner Buddha. We were being at one with our bodies and our breath. And we were feeling at one with the environment around us. Some of you, as you were walking, may have seen squirrels. Right now I'm seeing butterflies visit our beautiful garden. So pausing within the day and taking moments for this mindful cultivation, this mindful awareness, is a way that we cultivate that Buddha seed within us. In addition to mindfulness practices, starting with something we already know, breathing, and the Buddha was always doing this. He was saying, well, what do you already know? How can you build on that? And they keep taking it one step further. So breathing, we work with in our meditation practices in various ways. Maybe the simplest form is one breath, just this one breath meditation. So sometime throughout your day, just take a moment and fully enjoy the length of one breath. And see how your perspective changes, how all the noise in your mind starts to quiet down. Every Wednesday evening, we do extended meditation practice here at the temple. And then we read Song of Meditation, which is something that Sangha Sunam, our founder, provided to us. And there's a piece of this in particular, a couple of pieces I want to share with you. So it begins as, sit still, rest. Be at one with all beings insentient. Rocks, trees, mountains, rivers, clouds, sky. Breathe, concentrate. Be at one with all beings sentient. Birds, animals, fish, worms, humans. And then toward the end, it talks about how do we take this meditation practice into our everyday life? So here is a song for your everyday Dharma life. Meditation is knowing yourself. Knowing yourself is setting yourself free from delusions. Setting yourself free from delusions is becoming one with what is. Becoming one with what is enjoying formless life every day. Enjoying formless life is seeing yourself everywhere in happiness and sorrow. And so what is this formless life that we're talking about? It's sort of being in tune with the flow of the universe and things going on around us. So now we have shifted from the outer Buddha, the historical Buddha, to the realization that we can cultivate our inner practice. And now it's sort of dabbling with this innermost meaning of taking our practice with us everywhere into our everyday life, this formless sort of practice. I guess now my question to you, like to bring you into this conversation. As you think about your Buddha seed within you, what is one thing that you might do today or tomorrow to cultivate that Buddha seed? And I'll start with an example, and then I'm very interested in hearing yours. So for me, I'm going to start with the realization that I know how to breathe. That's my Buddha seed. And I'm going to bring that realization then to my listening practice. So that when I am with someone, I can just breathe and hear what they are saying more deeply. Today I have several meetings following this service, and I'm going to try to take that practice with me. So now, how about for you? What would be a practice that you might be doing either today or in the next few days? We get the traveling microphone. Yay!
I'm going to set it up.
This microphone is just about out of juice, the battery, so hopefully we'll hear everyone. Who would like to begin? Johnson.
Not to put too simple a point on it, but just showing up here. Just simple steps forward, sometimes doing the obvious is the best way to move forward.
Well, I can say that later on today, I intend to be planting seeds of new fall crop vegetables in my garden, and I'm just like the seeds; they're self-sufficient. They'll grow. We just need the encouragement of others.
I'm going on a hike later today with a friend, taking the opportunity to enjoy nature in silence and connect both with him and with the world around me and my inner Buddha with the joy of silence.
what I've realized has become one of my favorite things to do this time of year. I call it picking dry beans meditation.
For me, starting a new semester and meeting new people, I want to remind myself to not get swept away by certain emotions and just really be there for people and connect with them.
I really like what you said, Mahum, about you can throw mud on a jewel and then you can clean it off. And I spent my morning doing that. So I'm going to remember that it is a jewel and it can be cleaned and try to keep it that way.
So thank you so much for those of you who have shared. Normally we end with the four great vows, but today I would like to close our service with um, um, a version of the Three Refuges. I gave a hint of this earlier in the Dharma talk. So please repeat after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha,
I go for refuge to the Buddha,
my deeply awakened mind,
my deeply awakened mind,
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
I go for refuge to the Dharma,
I go for refuge to the Dharma,
truth manifesting everywhere,
truth manifesting everywhere,
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
I go for refuge to the Sangha,
I go for refuge to the Sangha,
deep friendships and interconnections of all beings,
deep friendships and interconnections of all beings,
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
which must be cultivated to be known fully.
Thank you so much for being here today. Haji Sunam will be giving announcements. Would you like to come and sit here? Just stand.
So, everyone, good morning. Actually, a nice, cool good morning. And welcome in from the 10 directions. Thanks, Maun, for a very nice talk today and inspiration. I found a quote from Viktor Frankl, which I would like to share with you just before we start on the announcements. It's this: between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our responses. in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Then from the experience of a concentration camp, and we have each our own version of that, less or more these days. And so what we offer at the temple is self-help through a number of means. So here you are at this service, and next week we will have our children at this service. So we're going to do live on Zoom next week, and if you come, and because you forgot that, there'll be two choices. One is to join in our Zen family service, which is always very spunky and inspiring, or to take a walk with one of us to Burns Park for a little practice there. But just so you know, usually once a month we need to give over this space to our Zen families program so that they can also come to practice and Sangha. Another thing coming up for the whole Sangha is our fall Sangha gathering. Usually we have it here at the temple. And we have a service, and after the service we have a meal together. But the next one is on September 25th, and it's going to be at Burns Park at 6 p.m. We'll have a picnic meal together, and we'll have some, we call it spontaneous entertainment, because we're not sure just what it will be, but it's for everyone. So maybe put that in your calendar for that evening at Burns Park, 6 p.m., the 25th. We have some formal classes starting, meditation course on the 16th, this coming week actually. Oh, or is it the next week?
Yep.
The next week, good. And are there 4 or 5 classes?
Not sure yet.
There may be 4 or 5 classes, and it will be on Thursdays starting at 6:30. I have some sign-up sheets here so that if you're interested, it's a good idea to put your name down so we can start to get the course organized.
And the course will be offered outside under the canopy.
Okay, good. And then also there's going to be a beginner's Zen Retreat that Saturday after the 16th, which is the time when you would come on Saturday for the day and learn some of the basics of meditation practice in a retreat format. So there'll be a sign up for that too. And we're hoping to start our yoga classes again with David Black, who's been a yoga teacher here for a long, long time, except for the past year and a half. So on the 21st, which is a Tuesday at 6:30, David will be restarting his courses, and a fan. Hopefully we'll be able to, if it's a small group, be in our Buddha hall, but there's also the possibility of outside too. So if you put your name on the sheets then we can contact you with the actual details of what's going to be happening. Let me look at some further. Today at noon is our Recovery Dharma meeting, which is in the Buddha hall. It's building over here. And Mike and others in that group will be providing leadership. We have, let's see, daily practice at Burns Park, except for Wednesday morning and Saturday morning. So we've been just really happy when people have come to join us. And these days it's really beautiful. So on Sunday, like this morning, we started at 6:40 there, leaving here at 6:30. One of our members turned up. And then the other days, except for Wednesday, we start at about 6:10 up there. And there's a place to drive. It's right by the picnic shelter and washrooms. So sometimes people just drive to us and join in. And we're going to do it as long as we can. It feels like we are affecting, even though there's a small group of us, that is kind of affecting the whole community around the park, to the point where one gentleman came out in his pajamas this past week and said something like, "I really like that you are here, but this moat talk that you play wakes me up too early." And so it made me know that everybody knows. And so we apologized, and the last 2 mornings, Mom put a sock on the moat top, so it doesn't have such a penetrating sound in the neighborhood. Yeah. You have to get a picture. It's this kind of funny sock. It looks like a puppet, actually, that she's playing.
Photo.
So, and we meet all the dog walkers and all kinds of people going back and forth. So it just reminds me that one person, one moat talk, can really have an effect on others. Hopefully always in a good way. On Saturday at 3 until 5, we have some wonderful folks who help with the garden. And you're always welcome to come, even for part of that time. Wednesday evening sitting begins at 6:30, and Mom conducts a Wednesday morning study group. So there are really a lot of things that you can be involved in, and so you have to decide. Mom said, "What would your steps be today?" So as we offer these things, and they're not starting yet, you have to think, what is my Dharma, Buddha Dharma, Sangha step this fall coming up? How would I like to deepen, transform, etc.? Well, these are the opportunities, and I'll put them on the table there so that you can sign up. And if there isn't one that suits what I said, just put your name down and with a question mark about it, and we'll get back to you. The temple is supported by many volunteers. This morning, Dogwa and Tongsong and someone came to help set up for us. It's beautiful, right? Yeah. So I know they would appreciate your help with dismantling, and also to come along as an apprentice if you'd like to be someone who would help set up. So I'm very grateful for so many volunteers who take care of our programs and our temple members, and also those who support us financially. So we have a donation box. Well, thank you for your generous support, as you can. Any questions? Complaints? I always think of that because we make progress when we hear complaints. It's called happiness on the hard road. Okay, I guess please stand, and we'll have Ma'um lead us in 3 prostrations and also on the exit.
We'll do 3 bows. I think prostrations are difficult with the chairs.
So face the altar.
Oh, okay. But our audience, I don't want the audience to get the butt shot.
Okay.